Martin Gavin here. I'm just basically got to do the take there basically about the story about the dress code in the church and the reverence in the church by women and men. And basically, I'm just going to basically now tell a little story because I have to tell the story that'll match up with that, and I want to pass it on around because it's very important. Unfortunately, in the church that we're living in today, a lot of people are going into the chapels and basically they're dressing beyond all imagination. And they're going into the churches as if they were going into discos, and they have no reverence for God whatsoever. And I'm going to tell you a story now that's a very sad one and a very powerful one, and something that people need to hear, because the woman that it happened to was a Colombian woman, and her name was Paula. And Paula was a very faithful woman, a very respectable woman, who had a very respectable job, and she was married with a family. But of course, excuse me, of course, Paula basically was a woman, because she was a good looking woman, she used to basically dress herself inappropriate, and she used to let parts of her body be seen that shouldn't be seen. Her dress was very short, and up over her chest basically her breast was always sticking out. Now this woman was a faithful woman to her husband. She wasn't a woman who was committing adulteries or doing anything wrong or like that there. And in the eyes of God, she wasn't doing anything. In the eyes of her own eyes and her husband's eyes, she wasn't doing wrong. But the sad thing about it was she had an awful habit of saying that lightning may strike me dead. And one day she was walking up through the street a summer's day, her and her husband. Sorry, not her husband, a man that was working with her, not her boyfriend now. And all of a sudden, lightning struck her, and struck the man that was beside her, and killed the man stone dead. And she went into a coma. She was burned in bits. And while she was like that, a man who was standing there rung an ambulance, and straight away he run to a church to pray for her. In the meantime, the ambulance came, and basically she was pronounced dead on the spot. And her soul left her body, and she went to heaven, and she had an outer body experience where she met the Lord, and the Lord began to show her whole life. And as he showed her whole life, from her childhood right up to her parenthood, and right up to the life that she was living till the moment that basically she was hit with the lightning, the Lord showed her, in spite of the fact that she never committed adultery physically with any man, or she wasn't a woman that entertained bad thoughts, she was enticing men to commit adultery with lust in their hearts by the way they were looking at her legs and looking at her breasts, and it was bad thoughts going go through their mind. Despite the woman not knowing that she was doing these things, she was basically a bad example, and because of this, God said she caused many men to commit adultery in their life through their hearts, and for that reason she was going to hell. Of course, God showed her many things and told her many things, and the story is a lot longer than that. And he explained things to her about her family, and he showed her members of her family in purgatory, and he also told her about people who were in hell. And he told her things about her life, her past life, everything. The Lord showed her everything in a picture, and she saw everything like looking into a television. She saw herself and everything in her life, and she could see the people that she was enticed. And God showed her the minds and the hearts of men who were looking at her as she was dressed like this. And of course, at that stage, she was destined to go straight to hell at that moment. And God showed her mercy. At that moment, God said to her, he said, I'm going to send you back, he said, to the world, he said. And why is I'm going to send you back? He said, because I want to tell you the world about your experience, he says. And when you go back to the world and tell this experience you have, he says, if you don't tell it when you come back to me, it's going to be worse for you, he said, when you come back to me, he says. And whoever hears it, he said, and doesn't tell it, they will have to answer too. And that's why I'm telling you. And the reason why she was saved, in the first of this story, remember the man went to the church, and he began to pray and beg mercy, but begging God for her. And he kept begging mercy for this woman. Her name was Paula. I can't think of her second name. She was a Colombian woman. And at that stage, God showed her mercy. And it was a prayer of a man begging for mercy for a person who was dying on the road that received mercy. But the strange thing about it, when she went back, she woke up in the hospital, and her two breasts were gone, and her legs were disfigured. Her breasts were gone, and her legs was disfigured. And as a result of it, of what she was doing, because she was showing these parts of her body, God done that to her. And basically it's an example for people, the way they should be dressing themselves and the things that they put through the minds of men and women when they're not dressed right. That's a true story, and I have to share that with you, and I hope you'll share it with other people too. But anybody who doesn't share it will have the answer to God. And that book is in Medjugorje. You can buy it in a bookshop in Medjugorje. If Annie's there in Medjugorje, you can go into a bookshop and buy it. And the woman's name is Paula, about the life story, the Colombian woman. And that happened to her, and it's based in truth. So God bless you. I hope you get something for that.